Okay. Okay, thanks. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming for the third August meeting that we were never going to be having in the month of August. So I appreciate all of your time and commitment. You have no idea. But an important meeting tonight. So what I'd like to do is, Judy, if you could do the roll, please, and we'll seat everybody and get prepared for our discussion and votes.
All right, Neil Butnick. Neil, can you hear us?
Yeah, it took me a second.
It's all right. You're here. All right, Judy Neville, Tom Schulte,
Here.
Amy Carroll. Here. Todd Lavieri,
Here.
Michael Chen.
Here.
Chris Labrie.
Here.
Victor Alvarez.
Here.
Maria Weingarten.
Here.
She did come. Okay, I didn't
Job.
see. Robert Hamill,
Here.
Colm Dalvin,
Here.
and Kevin Monahan, our first selectman. You're here on
Here.
Zoom, right?
Here.
Okay,
We're going to seat.
so we need to.
We're going to ask,
We need some
yeah,
volunteer,
you have to volunteer to recuse yourself.
I'm going to volunteer to recuse myself for this vote, for
Okay.
these couple of votes.
Thank you, Victor. So with that, we need a motion to seat Colin in his
So
place. Amy, second. Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, so moved. Thank you, Victor. Okay, so tonight we have two topics to discuss. The approval and review of the memorandum of understanding, and then, of course, the discussion and approval of the $10 million grant for the town. And just to put this a little bit in context, the first time I was on the Board of Finance back in 09 and 10 and 11, I remember getting ready for the budget season, and the library was on the agenda. And I thought, who uses the library? I mean, that might be a savings opportunity. Who uses the library? And at the end of the presentation, I was just blown away. I had no idea. As it turns out, everybody uses the library. Every demographic, young, old, high school, retired, in the financial crisis, blizzards, power outages, unbelievable usage of the library. It's a tremendous asset in this town. And the most interesting thing about it, it's one of the few things that really brings every demographic together for something, which is incredible. So 2 years ago, this was presented as an idea, and I'll never forget the quote that Bob Spangler had. When he looked at it, we sat here, we listened, and he turned to me and said, "Are you kidding me? We can get that for $10 million with basically free money. Where do I sign up?" And I think we all agreed at that moment, this was a great idea. And as it turns out, thousands, and I mean thousands of residents also agree that this is such a great idea. And specifically, Bob can tell me the number, dozens, more than dozens, of extremely generous donations have been made to the tune of over $15 million by residents. They believe in it that much. So this is an exciting opportunity for us. Tonight is a next step. I don't know that it will be the last step, but it is certainly a next step for us as we go down this journey together and go through putting ourselves in a position to build an asset for this town for the next 50 years, which is not an opportunity we get every day. And so we take it very seriously. Everybody has worked a lot. Lisa and Bob, of course, can't say enough of all the work that you've done on behalf of the town and the library. Members of the town council, obviously the selectmen, and all the selectmen have helped with this. But I have to call out for our team here, Chris Labrie, Tom Schulte, and Neil Budnick. The hours you all have put in is unbelievable. Tom in particular, I have to say your council these last 4 weeks have been just incredible. Thank you so much for all the time and all the help to get us to where we are today. So where are we? Well, you may remember we said a year ago, we need three things. We need a budget, we need an MOU, and we need to have planning and zoning approval. We have a budget. We like the budget. You guys did a great job presenting that, sharing that with us. And I know you're still trying to put some finishing touches on something that will not really ever be finished, but I think we all agree good enough. That was a great effort and more than good enough. It's terrific. So we feel good about the budget. P&Z, we have a conditional approval, and so we'll work with that. And then it comes down to the MOU. So the question I have on the table for us tonight first is I'd like to know a couple things. One, do we have an agreement? And do we have any commentary? So Bob, I'm going to ask you and Lisa, from your point of view on the MOU, do we have an agreement?
I'll start by saying, first of all, Todd, thank you, and thank you for the town for getting us to this point, and especially the Board of Finance for all your support. We do have an agreement, subject to the approval of our Board of Directors or our Board of Trustees at the library, which should be forthcoming here very shortly after the vote from Town Council. So, I mean, we're very encouraged, and we appreciate obviously not only the grant, but what you're going to talk about tonight in terms of the line of credit.
And Chris, Tom, and Neil, do we have an agreement? You're the working team on behalf of the Board of Finance. Your minds and opinions? I guess, Tom, I'll ask you or Neil. Yeah.
You know, everything about this is right, and the agreement is good. We can have a few little improvements, but I think we've really done a lot to let this facility have access to AAA funding.
Excellent.
That's a big benefit.
You want to add anything, Chris?
Well, I think that we do have a deal. We work very closely with our colleagues at the library to really put together what in the long term is the best solution for both the library and the town. And that's my synopsis of the last couple of months.
Okay. So our agenda item is to review and approve the MOU. So we will vote on it. But what I'd like to do first is ask, since we all got the final draft today, there may be a couple questions, some clarification and wording. I think we're very, very close, but I'll ask, is there any input or questions that any of the Board of Finance members have at this point? Go ahead. Yeah, Amy.
Okay,
And the only thing I'm going to say to everybody is,
speak loud.
if you lean into your mic, life is good. If you elbows on the table.
I'm
is
going
right.
to
And-
lean in.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have two small questions, just for clarification purposes. So Neil and Tom or Chris, Schedule B, which I really like, the building project description, 'cause I think that's important. They were describing it. This reads, you know, this is a building, and then whatever agreement we come through with planning and zoning in terms of addressing the outstanding memorialization of the existing structure. The way I read this, to me, it's kind of blends in any potential expense that might be associated with this. I know in the document, you specifically say, I think it's 11H, 1101H, the grant and the line of credit shall not be used for labor and materials, fees, or expenses associated with restoration and preservation of the historic structures. So that seems to address it. But I just wonder, does it make any sense to specifically add to this something along reiterating that any potential expense related to addressing the existing structure are specifically not included in project's costs as projected by the library? And I don't know if that's belt and suspenders, but I want to make sure if the library enters into the line of credit with the town as they're moving along their project, that there can't be any barriers that get put in place to releasing the funds to them to address the project as designed if there are considerations in terms of the preservation side of it. And that may be overkill, but I just want to raise that.
What would you like to say?
Well, I'll leave it. We have an august lawyer up here. He's way better than that.
He's
than
leaning
I
in.
am.
He's leaning in.
All right.
Well, you're right, I'm leaning in, like everyone. So I think the provision in 1101 stands and operates exactly as you read it.
Okay.
So I don't think there's any confusion that the money here is only for the project as described and as approved. So if you look at the recital, and I think it's F as in Frank, right around the first page or page and a half, what that says is the building project is the building as described and as approved by P&Z in July, right? As that approval might be amended and modified because P&Z reserved themselves the right to go back and revisit that. And then what we further say is, oh, and by the way, none of the funds here that we're talking about here can be used for anything related to the preservation. So it seems to me like we have
It's
two
covered?
provisions. Yeah, I think it works. I think we're as
Okay.
flexible as we need to be, but we've certainly protected ourselves for exactly the risk that you described, in my view.
Okay, so just reiterating, so if the library enters into the line of credit with us and it has the draws related to the project, there can't be any barriers in terms of, well, you can't draw this down because we have to address X, Y, and Z in terms of the preservation side. There couldn't, no one could restrict their legitimate draws on that basis.
Yeah, actually, the line of credit as well as the $10 million grant
Specifically
are
can't.
both subject to the provisions of 1101 that says that they can't be used for those purposes as described.
Okay, all right. I have one other question, and it's just in terms of the agreement. I know this agreement is looking to have the town at a much lower cost of funds, being the bridge loan between the fundraising and the project costs. So is it definite that the town does it, or are we allowed to, in this document, in 4.02.1, construction of line of credit, second line, in addition to the grant and subject to appropriations, the town will furnish? Does it have to be will? Could it be may? Does that allow the library flexibility to use, a bank line of credit is not, even though it might be more expensive, there may be reasons to do it. And I don't know how critical the will versus may is.
Like all contracts, they could come back and have a conversation with us without a doubt. What we wanted to ensure was that at no time was our grant commitment live, being drawn and funded at a time where we didn't have coverage for the back end of the project expenses. Right? And so
Okay,
we were just trying to cover that off. And
perfect.
so, we have, as Neil said, they've accessed AAA rated financing rates. And, after a series of conversations, I think everybody realized the wisdom and the flexibility of this path forward.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Amy. Any other input or questions? Michael?
Yeah, I just have one quick question is on the first payment by town, the initial drawdown. It said it'll be equal to the expended sum, which is all the project cost to date. Is there any estimate of when that's going to happen, once it's approved, and how much that will be?
Yeah, so if you had the cash flows that the library presented to us about 2 meetings ago, they clearly show that the soft costs that they have incurred that would be subject to this matching advance is about $4.5 million. Remember, we're not reimbursing them. What we're trying to do is have a catch-up payment so that both the library's expenditures and then the town's expenditures will be even. And then from that time forward, it's pari passu, dollar for dollar into the project. But there has to be a mechanism to do that catch-up because they've been spending money over the last year, and it's added up to significant numbers.
So you think the initial amount will be about 4.5?
We think the first draw should be 4.5. If the first draw were to occur in September,
Yeah.
Obviously, if the first draw does not occur till later, then it might be a larger number because the library is spending quite a lot of money on a real-time basis.
Okay, so about 4.5 in September.
Four
unless
and a
something
half,
changes.
yes. Right now, we would go with the 4.5 number.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Comments?
Yeah, I'd
Colin?
like to just comment, Todd. I'm new to this. And
Just
this
lean
had
in a
long
little
his-
bit, or
had a long
drag it
history.
closer to you.
Okay.
You can pull it closer to you. There you go.
I'm new to this. I recently joined the board, and this was already fairly well established by the time I joined. I think that the context of this agreement is that it's a public-private partnership agreement. It isn't intended to cover everything, to have all the i's dotted and all the t's crossed. I mean, it's very different to an investment. If I'm a lawyer, if we were doing an investment of $10 million, we probably would have the documents drafted, for instance, the lien and the security interest. But this is between the town and its library and through volunteer boards. So I think it's important for everybody to understand that there's a certain amount of trust and goodwill that has to come from both sides. So, with that, I looked at it and I think it's adequate to protect the town under the circumstances. Could there be bad things? Yeah, sure. I mean, if the fundraising doesn't add up, then the town could, be on the hook, or at least have some hard choices to make. But I think under the circumstances, it's adequate to protect the town for what we want to achieve.
Thank you. Good. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll take a vote.
I just want
Judy.
Yeah. On the amendment of certificate of incorporation on 1602, I think everyone can hear. That was not added. I'm assuming it will be, but it hasn't as of yet, and it was mentioned in the last meeting. So on the default in the dissolution of assets to the town.
So we asked this question of the library at the last meeting. I don't know if you heard the answer, but maybe the library could give it to us again with regards to this particular clause. I think the answer is that the library documents already read this way,
Right.
and that there is nothing for them to do except deliver them to us. Is that correct?
I'll speak to that. Hi, yes, so I went back and reviewed the certificates of incorporation after we spoke last week. They very clearly state the municipal local government as an entity to which the library can be turned over. We can amend those, as we discussed earlier, to exclude the federal government and the state government also named, and have it only be the municipal government if that's what you would like.
So Judy, how do you want it?
Yeah, I think, 50 years from now, it has to be clear that it's the town of New Canaan. We won't be here to remember all this, Not the
Well-
state, not federal.
Well, I think that maybe one way to look at this is that it largely provides for this already. So there's at least an argument that they've already satisfied it. But if not, and there's some tweaking to be done, they have themselves 2 months to get that done.
What's the sense of this board? Should it not be totally the town of New Canaan as opposed to any state or federal agency or? I think it should.
Well, I'm with you. I think
Yeah.
it should revert to the town of New Canaan. And it should be clear that that's
The answer?
what's going to happen. So if there is a minor tweak to your certificate of incorporation needs to be done, you've got 60 days to do it.
That's good.
That'd be great. It can be a deliverable. We can make a tickler of that. I think it would be 60 days from the effective date. So 60 days from approval by the town council.
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
I
Bob
had a
Hamel.
real simple question, and pardon me if it's already been discussed, but we get the chairman of the town council has the right to appoint 2 directors, which I think is a great provision. How many directors will that make after those 2? And do you need to, reestablish your bylaws to accomplish that?
Sure, I can speak to that as well. Over a year ago, when the town council first let us know that they wanted something that was like what's ended up in here, we amended our bylaws. We've then amended them again because there was a change to that. We currently have, I believe, 25 available seats on our board, of which we currently have just under 20 filled. So I think we're fine. Once we get this fully ratified through both chambers of this government, we can then go back and revisit to see if there's any changes we need to make. But that's been something that has changed a couple of times from during the negotiations. And so we've been waiting to see if we needed to make any further changes. But at the moment, we have plenty of space.
Thank you.
Okay. Going once, any other comments, questions? If there are none, then I'd like a motion to approve the revised memorandum of understanding between the town of New Canaan and the public
So
library.
moved.
So, Chris Labrie, duly entitled.
Second.
Neil Budnick, second. Okay, all in favor of approval?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Well done. Again, thank you all for all your hard work. With that, we can then move on the motion to approve the project and the bond authorization. So Judy, I would ask you to read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing an appropriation of $10 million for the Library 2021 project and the financing of said appropriation by the issuance of general obligation bonds of the town and notes in anticipation of such bonds in an amount not to exceed $10 million.
Motion for approval.
So moved.
Amy Carroll. A second?
I'll second.
Second. Colin Dobbin. Thank you. All in favor? Aye, raise your hands, guys on TV, yeah, thanks, Neil. Opposed? So moved. Very good. Congratulations. Congratulations, Bob and Lisa.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Board of Finance.
With that, that is the end of our meeting. That is the end of our agenda.
Can we have another August meeting just for?
We will.
Just
If you
because
turn the
we're
next page, you'll see we have a meeting next Tuesday. I'm kidding. No, we have a lot to accomplish, but with obviously starting with the budget season, starting
Oh, God.
literally a couple of weeks. We will have an update on our next favorite building, the police department,
We will.
in September, and on we move. I guess Bob and Lisa, any final word as we send this now over to the town council?
Nothing other than, a heartfelt thank you for expediting this process and getting it to the sort of the final point where, we can now move ahead and sign, hopefully in the next week or so, a GMP contract, get a shovel in the ground. I mean, it's been a long process, as you know, started several years back, and it's exciting to see the future, and hopefully by the time, late September, maybe early October arrives, you'll see construction starting on the site on Main Street and Cherries. So
Excellent.
it's all good.
Very good.
So I just want to thank all of you on the Board of Finance. Over the last weeks, months, I have received a daily stream of communications, people coming into the library to visit me. Just a consistent message from people. A woman came up to me today. I do not know her name or who she is, but just people continuing to come to us and saying, thank you so much for persevering, for working with town, for getting this going. There is such support for this project, as you all know, and you referenced at the beginning of the meeting, Todd, on behalf of all of those people who let us know every day in emails, texts, visits, and all sorts of other communications. This is something the community wants so badly. And I think they will all join me in thanking this body, Neil and Tom and Chris, for their work, and everyone else who has worked so hard to get us to this point. And I'd like to thank our board and our team for all the work that has happened over especially this last 8 months, to get us where we are tonight. And this is a really momentous moment for New Canaan to do, as you said at the beginning of the meeting, this is an exceptional, incredible opportunity for this town to really add something of tremendous value for everyone who lives here, for every single person, from the smallest babies to our oldest seniors. It's all for the people. All of us work for the people of this town, and they've been letting us know how much they want this. And so thank you, thank you, thank you.
Very good. Thanks for those comments, Lisa. Okay, with that, I'll have a motion to adjourn. Look at the hands. Unbelievable. Michael Chen and Bob Hamill get the award for the two fastest hands. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.